Talk about when you joined the Marines and how did it affect your college experience?
Well, I joined in college. They had a special recruitment for potential officers. And the first day that they recruited, 40 fellows tried to enlist and they took 7. So it became a challenge. And the second day, another 40 of us went up and they took, I think, 36. So that's how I stumbled into the Marine Corps on a challenge basis.
Yeah. And how early in your college career did you join the Marines, and how did it affect?
We went summer that year, and it was, I think I probably volunteered the summer of '42. It was August, right around my birthday.
Okay.
And that was it. They came up there and were looking. So, in fact, at college, you went 12 months a year, and no vacations for the summertime.
Okay. And so talk about your training a little bit and where you were stationed in the U.S. before you went overseas.
Well, training was actually part of it. Was in college. They put us in uniform, and while there were no direct courses, you choose your own courses, regular courses. You had some little bit of training at college, but none to speak of really. They sent us into Parris Island for basic training, and we left Parris Island for Special Officer Training School at Camp Lejeune. We never did see Quantico. So that was it.
And then where in the U.S. were you stationed after that?
Well, from Lejeune we went on a train cross country, and it was Camp Pendleton, which was on the west coast.
Where did this come from?
And in Pendleton, which was more training, they sent us down to San Diego, where we had final training and awaited transportation to the Pacific area.
So when did you know that you'd be in the Pacific fighting as opposed to someplace else?
Basically, Marines were in the Pacific, and that was it.
Okay. And so when was it exactly that you were sent out, and when did you find out where you'd be stationed once you were in the Pacific?
I can't give you the exact dates, but we shipped out of San Diego, and it was like 48 or 49 days ocean voyage before we reached Guam, and that we disembarked. Guam had just been secured. We disembarked in Guam, and we had no regular regiment. We were all assigned to different regiments, battalions, what have you.
Okay. So actually, can you talk about the boat ride a little bit? What was it like to be on a boat for 48 or 49 days? And any specific stories that you remember?
There was, I think, 6 of us in our cabin, and one strange thing did happen. We were aboard a ship that had been a Mediterranean pleasure craft, and they had aboard a couple of stewards to help us out with anything. Well, we all brought some bottles of booze with us. We ran out of that very quickly, and the steward says, "I can get you some," and he got us some, charged double for what it really was. And when we disembarked, the other battalion, special battalion officers, belongings belonged to the battalion, like booze, were strangely missing. So we had been buying, and this guy had been stealing and selling it to us. Also, aboard ship, the enlisted men had poker games going 24 hours a day, I guess. And my sergeant did very nicely and asked me to send money home, which I did for him. Once we got to Guam, or I've forgotten how I did it. Those are the two main things. Did a lot of reading, a lot of walking, a lot of just plain talking.
Yeah.
That was it.
Do you remember how you did when you played poker?
We didn't, I don't think we played that much, officers, but the enlisted men did, and my sergeant, as I said, he had a goodly amount of money, and the other guys were playing with very small amounts, so he was almost a pro.
And once you were in Guam, what was life like there? And what was an average day like when you lived there?
Oh boy, an average day. We were out in the wilderness in tents, no hot water or anything to shower with. Lots of long distance hikes, with X amount of simulated training, and it was not that great an existence, but not that bad either, really. We got an officers club, and it was interesting.
And what were the toughest parts, do you think, and what were the best parts, if there were any, about living out in Guam, or just living in general out there?
Well, one thing did happen. When Guam was secured, Admiral Nimitz built the headquarters of the Pacific Fleet there, and it was a great job of building. They had air conditioning, they had tennis courts, they had all kinds of inner-spring mattresses and beds, and they selected at random 6 Marine officers to head up the guard detail for SINGPAC, Commander-in-Chief Pacific. I was one of them. Unfortunately, my regimental commander vetoed my transfer on the basis that I was too good an infantry officer. And the truth was that he owed me a considerable amount of money from playing poker and wanted to get it back. And that was it. So I had a couple of friends who were up there. I'd visit them once a week or something like that. That was unfortunate, and I told him that I would gladly cancel all debts, which he said sorry, and that was that.
Did he ever make his money back?
No, no.
Do you have any other stories that you remember that sort of stand out?
No, there are a couple of fellows from St. Louis who were on Guam. Out of St. Louis, a guy named Julian Miller, who was 4F, put together a small newspaper of St. Louis servicemen whom he knew, and made contact in Guam with Buddy Turner, who was a longtime friend, and with Charles Baer, and Ernie Marks, all from St. Louis. And, spent some time with them, so it was nice, but nothing else special.
Yeah. How much free time did you guys have, and what sorts of things would you do during your free time?
It's a good question. Free time was reading, doing this or that, general chatter as I remember it. And that was really it. Not too much really comes to mind as free time.
Okay. When and where did you first face combat during the war?
It was once, and that was on Iwo.
Okay. Can you talk about that?
Well, fortunately, our group was not on the first wave. We were a reserve battalion, and we went ashore, I guess, D+2 or D+3, and there was still plenty of Japanese around who were dug into caves and tunnels and what have you, and it was messy. A lot of people were killed, wounded still, and each of us were assigned to a company, and that was it really.
So how long did you, beforehand, did you know that you'd be going to Iwo Jima? And what sort of planning went into it on your front, and planning that you knew about?
We really didn't know where we were going until we got there, as I remember it. And that's really it.
So yeah, talk about fighting on Iwo Jima and after you were shot. What how did the medical system work? Where did you go after that? And what was the recovery like?
Well, I was very lucky with my wound because it was in the right arm, and if it had been a quarter inch or a half inch elsewhere in the arm, it would have been my whole elbow shattered. But it went through, it didn't touch any bones, so I was very, very lucky. And what we did, you hiked down, hiked you down to the Air Force Base and flew us back to Guam to the hospital. And that was it.
And how long were you in the hospital?
And I really don't remember. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe a week. I'm chuckling because in the hospital, you got some guys who are very belligerent and very difficult. One of those sons of one of the major political figures in the United States was very nasty. But the nurses got even with him because when they gave him a shot, before they gave him a shot, they rubbed the edge of the needle against a little concrete. So when I shot, out came skin and ouch, ouch, ouch. So those kind of things happened.